ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्णपाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्योजात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। शान्तिपाठ। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Now we have entered into the second Mundaka, first Khanda. And in the second Mundaka, onwards, there is going to be only the teaching about this Aksharam Brahma. All about Aparavidya was already talked about in the second Khanda of the first Mundaka. Now onwards, it's only Paravidya and all about the Swarupam and also the Tatastha Lakshanam and Swarupa Lakshanam of Brahman is going to be talked about. And of course, at the end, Mahavakya, Aham Brahmasmi, definitely is going to be talked about with the phalam of this knowledge. Now, in this second Mundaka, first Khanda, we just got introduced in the last session to the first two mantras. Now, what in this particular section or Khanda of the second Mundaka, what the Upanishad wants to do is to introduce this Brahman as to its relationship with the Jiva and Jagat. I am a Jiva here. I am facing this Jagat here. And we have heard that Brahman is the only one and the only without a second. Advayam Brahma. There is nothing else other than Brahman. That is what we have talked about. And in the first Khanda, in the sixth mantra, it was already talked about as Bhuta Yonim, Jagat Karanam Bhuta Yoni, Vibhuhu, Sarvagataha, Vibhuhu, Bhuta Yonihi. That was how Aksharam Brahma was described. So now, what is it that the world is about? Who are these jivas? What is this Jagat? From where have they come? What is the connection? What is the relationship between this Aksharam Brahma and the Jiva and Jagat? From where have they come? If Brahman is the Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam of this entire universe, in that case, the entire Jagat and the Jivas should come from that Brahman as Jagat Karanam Brahman. And also we saw that for anything to become the Karanam of a particular effect, a cause has to undergo some change to become the Karyam or the product. But we saw that Brahman is something which cannot undergo any changeless because it is nirvikari. Brahman is asangaha, Brahman is nirvikari, niravayavaha, that which is nityam. It cannot undergo any transformation to become the world. So, what is the meaning of Brahman becoming the world? It means this Brahman, with the help of Maya, manifests as this universe. What is a manifestation? A manifestation is a mere projection or reflection. The Karanam does not undergo any transformation or change to become the Karyam. Therefore, Brahman, which does not undergo any change to become the Karyam, is called as the Vivarta Karanam, not a Parinami Karanam. Vivarta Karanam, changelessly, without undergoing any change. This Brahman manifests itself as the millions of jivas that are found here, and with millions of names and forms that are here, with the help of, in association with that Shakti called as Maya. So Maya Shakti projects the matter principle, the Jagat, including this body mind sense complex, onto Brahman. Maya borrows existence, consciousness from Brahman, and it projects a whole universe like a magician projecting his magic without undergoing any change, like a waker projecting a dream without undergoing any change. I, the waker, am the Vivarta Karanam. I am the Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam of my own dream. Similarly, Brahman is merely projecting itself, manifesting itself as the Jagat with the help of Maya. And the first verse talked about mainly the jivas, the sentient beings. What is a jiva? What are these thousands or millions of forms of life that are present here, the jivas? In what way is a jiva connected to Brahman? Is a jiva a part of Brahman? Is Jiva different from Brahman? Something totally different? Is it a second thing other than Brahman? In that case, there'll be two things. There'll be Jiva, there'll be Brahman. There are no two things. Our scriptures say that there is only one thing. Ekam yeva advayam Brahma. In that case, what is a Jiva? Is it a part of this Brahman or is it Brahman itself? What does Vedanta say? That a jiva is not different from Brahman. Jiva Brahma Aikyam is talked about in the Mahavakya as Jiva and Brahman are the same consciousness, the same existence. Then what is the difference? The difference is in the Upadhi. In the Upadhi, there is a difference. Ishvara or Brahman has a different macro or samashti Upadhi, and the Jiva has a limited or a minor or vyashti Upadhi. That's it. The Bheda is only the Upadhi Bheda. But Swarupataya, the Jiva and Brahman can be also called as Ishvara from the point of view of the Jagat. I have already told that. This Brahman, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, in association with Maya, when the world is projected from the point of view of the Jagat which is projected, the same Brahman is also called as Ishvara. Brahman, Nirguna Brahman, Nirvikari Brahman with Maya Shakti is called as Ishvara, which is taken as Jagat Karanam Brahma. In that case, what are the jivas? The jiva is not different from Ishvara or Brahman. That is why the first verse said, Yatha Sudiptat Pavakad Sahasrashah Vispulingaha Prabhavante. Just like the sparks, thousands of sparks emerge from this conflagration of fire. In that case, is the spark a part of fire or is it the same as fire? The Upanishad uses a specific word here, Sarupaha. Swarupa Lakshanataya, the spark also is heat and light. the conflagration of fire is also heat and light, and therefore the spark is not different from the conflagration of fire. The spark has the same swarupa, lakshanas as fire. So there is a logic, there is a law in Vedanta, there is a law in Mimamsa Shastra. What it says is, if there are two things having the same lakshanas, then the two are not different from each other. That is the logic used here. What it means is that if the Swarupa Lakshana of fire, which is burning there a large conflagration, the Swarupam is heat and light, then if the spark, which is small, some of them are small, some of them are big, some of them fly far, some of them just fall dead there, some of them get resolved into that fire itself, but every spark is of the nature of heat and light. Therefore, spark is not different from fire, spark is not a part of fire, but the spark is fire. Therefore, Jiva is not different from Brahman or Ishvara. Jiva is Sarupaha. Then what does he say here? It is these Jivas, what is born? What is born is the Upadhi of the Jiva is born. Which Upadhi? Only the Sthula Sharira Upadhi is born out of the gross matter principle. That is what is born, that is what dies. The Sukshma Sharira of every Jiva also continues throughout the creation. So, what is created in a Jiva? Only the physical body is created, nothing else. The Sukshma Sharira carries on. Atma, of course, is all the time there. Brahman, of course, is all the time there. Please remember Atma, Brahman, Aksharam, Ishvara, all these are Paryaya Padas. So we can use any of these terms which points to Brahman only. Okay, so now with this, in the first verse, the Upanishad Guru. Who's the Upanishad Guru? Angiras. We have to keep on remembering this. Who's the Shishya of the Upanishad? Shaunaka. Shaunaka Mahashala Shaunaka is the student, the Shishya, and Angiras is the Guru Sampradaya with Brahmanishta Shrotriya Guru. So that was the first verse. Then there is a possibility that one may think that the Karanam Brahma undergoes change to become the Karyam. Does the fire undergo any change to become the sparks? No. Does the water in the ocean undergo any change to manifest itself as waves? No. Similarly, Brahman as Jagat Karanam does not undergo any change to become the Jiva. That, to make that very clear, the second mantra talked about the consciousness as the very nature of Brahman. Divyo hyamurta purushaha sabhahyabhyantaro hyajaya. Apranaha amanaha. What is this Brahman? It is nothing but pure consciousness, which is Niravayava, which does not have prana, but it is the prana of the prana. It does not have a mind as an organ or a vayava, but it is that very consciousness which functions behind a very mind. So he said apranaha, and then it is something which is absolutely not having any of the sense organs, apranaha and amanaha. And ultimately, what is it? It is nothing but that pure consciousness, niravayava, which cannot undergo any change whatsoever. Because it not undergo any change whatsoever, this Brahman is actually Shubhraha. It is very, very Shuddhaha because it cannot undergo any change. It's only when something undergoes any change, it gets sullied. Shubhraha means asangaha. It is not affected by the projection which is projected on it. The world, which is a mere projection on this Brahman by Maya, is not sullying this Brahman. So Shubhraha Aksharat Paratah Paraha. This is the Paramarthika Satyam, which is even higher than the Vyavaharika Satyam Maya. Aksharat Parata Paraha. Here, this Akshara means Maya. This Karana Prapancha, Karana Sharira, Prakriti, this Brahman is even superior to Maya. Aksharat Parataha Paraha. So here the first two verses talked about this Brahman being the Vivarta Karanam of this entire universe. And also the Jiva. What is the relationship then between the Jiva and Brahman? It is nothing but Aikyam. The Jiva and Brahman are nothing but the same. Jiva is not, according to Advaita Vedanta, Jiva is not a part of Brahman. Jiva is not different from Brahman, but the Jiva is Brahman. That is why Tattvam Asi Mahavakya is there. Aham Brahma Asmi Mahavakya is there. Ayamatma Brahma, the Mahavakya is there. And we saw also in Vivek Chudamani how the Mahavakya is derived by using the Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana. If you can go through that, remember that well and good. It's worth it to go back to Vivek Chudamani and see how the Mahavakya is deduced or worked out. Now from the next verse onwards, from the third verse until the 10th verse, how this whole universe, with its various names and forms, how it manifests from that same Brahman, that is what is talked about. The Jiva coming out of the Jiva from Brahman. Manifestation of the Jiva from Brahman was talked about in the first two verses. Brahman being the Vivarta Karanam of the Jiva and Jiva Brahma being one and the same. From the third verse onwards, the Upanishad is going to talk about what about the rest of the universe, the insentient things, the insentient beings, because the Jagat is a mixture of sentient, conscious beings, sentient beings, and insentient beings. Therefore, how is this Jagat produced? So, in the next verse, the Srishti Krama is talked about. The creation is talked about. To some extent, we saw that in the first Khanda itself, we saw a few verses talking about Brahman being the Tathastha Lakshanam as Jagat Karanam Brahma. That is explained in more detail here as to how the various manifestations in the universe manifest from the same universe. Creation is different, manifestation is different. Correct? There is no question of a new thing created in the Jagat. That is what it is. Creation means here nothing new is created. The same Jagat which was in the unmanifest form manifests or associated in new names and forms. And where does this manifestation take place? It is merely projected onto the Brahman by Maya. That's also what is creation. What is Srishti? It is a mere appearance. That is what the Advaita philosophy says. It's a mere appearance. Therefore, what is Jagat? Jagat Mithya. It is there for experience, but really speaking, it is not there. It is there for transaction, but ultimately it is not the ultimate truth. It is only a vyavaharika satyam. It is not the absolute reality. It is only an experiential reality. This is the universe. This is the Jagat. Then somebody may ask, then what is the relationship between Jagat and Brahman? Jagat and Brahman is a mere projection. We can even call it as adhyasa. Don't worry about that. It is a mere manifestation or projection of the Jagat onto this Brahman without Brahman or the Karanam undergoing any change. So now, how does the rest of the creation take place? That is what is going to be talked about. Let's go to the third verse. Here, there is nothing much to talk about because it is only a krama, or it is only a what you call a series or a sequential way in which the world manifests from Brahman. So there's nothing to explain here. It's only how the Upanishad actually teaches the Srishti or creation. That is what it is. So it is a kramataya in a sequential manner from Karana Prapancha, how the Sukshma Prapancha was born, from Sukshma Prapancha, how the Sthula Prapancha was born, and then whatever is necessary to be done in the Sthula Prapancha for the interaction with the Jiva and Jagat, or the interaction between Jiva and Jagat. What are the other things that were necessary, which also came from this Brahman? That is what was going to be talked about here. So let us see the third verse. The third verse says, ये तस्मात् जायते प्राणः मनः सर्वेन्द्रियाणि च खं वायुज्योतिरापः पृथिवी विश्वस्य धारिणी. So what he says here is that we can take the second line first in the order of creation. A certain order is mentioned. A certain krama is mentioned here. So, ye tasmat, from this Brahman, from this Atma, which is nothing but me, jayate. Jayate means what? Is born. Here is born means what? Appears. Maya projects elements. 5 elements. What are called as the tanmatras, or the sukshma panchabhutas, are first manifested or projected by Maya onto this Brahman. Therefore, the Upanishad says, Tasmat Parabrahmanaha Maya Samyogat Jayate, that means manifests or appears, Kham Vayuhu Jyotihi Apaha Prithivi. The 5 elements are born. The 5 elements: Kham, space; Vayuhu, sound; Jyotihi, Vayuhu is air, space. Then Vayuhu is air or wind, Vayuhu air. Jyotihi is Agnihi or principle of fire. Apaha is nothing but water, water element, water. Prithivi, or the earth principle. And all this, the Akasha, space; Vayu, air; Agnihi, this one, what is that? Fire. Then water and earth, they are first born as Sukshma Panchabhutas. They are called as Tanmatras. Sukshma Panchabhutas are called Tanmatras. So the first thing that appears as the first product is Akasha. And with Akasha, the space, time also appears. Because in space and time, the whole Jagat is actually projected. Do you remember Dakshinamurti Stotram? Maya Kalpita Desha Kala Kalana. Maya Kalpita, that which is actually a projection of Maya in Brahman, Desha Kala Kalana, space, time, and causality from which this entire universe is formed. The subtlest of the 5 elements is the space. Next subtle is called as the Vayu or the air, because both of them cannot be seen or objectified. They are the Amurta Panchabhuta, or 2 of the Panchabhuta. Then Agni is the first Panchabhuta to show a form, because Agni has a form. Then we have Apaha or water, and Prithivi. And if you go back, we are supposed to know all these things by now. We should know what are the characteristics or swarupas of Akasha, how many attributes does it have. Sound is the only attribute of Akasha. Sound and touch is the attribute of Vayu. Sound, touch and form is the attribute of Agni. Sound, touch, form and taste, these 4 are the attributes of Apaha, water. Then sound, touch, form, taste and smell are the 5 attributes of the grossest of the 5 elements, Prithvi. So, from the subtlest space. So, why these are the attributes, how they have come, all that you have to go back to Tattva Bodha. In Tattva Bodha, everything has been explained clearly as to what is Akasha, what is its attribute or lakshana, then what is air or vayu, why it has got 2 attributes, how it develops 2 attributes, why fire has 3 attributes. All these things are explained in Tattva Bodha in great detail. So you have to go back to Tattva Bodha. And when we come to Upanishads, it is expected that we know these basic things about the Panchabhutas, the Srishti, and all these things. We know these basic things. That is expected. Doesn't matter if we have forgotten, we can keep going back to Tattva Bodha and seeing these things. So, what is first form? Space is the very first thing that appears, which provides an opportunity, avakasham, that is for everything else to get fitted into it and project a world. There should be a space and time in which a projection has to take place. Kham, Vayu, Jyotihi, Apaha, Prithivi. And then what happens? With these combinations of these subtle elements, the Sukshma Prapancha is formed. Prithvi is given a specific name here, Vishwasya Dharini. Vishwasya Dharini means what? It is this Prithvi with 5 attributes, that is Sparsha, that is Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, 5 attributes. It is this earth principle which is really the nourisher, Vishwasya Dharini, the nourisher of the entire universe. So, what happens here? What is he saying here? First things that are born are the first 5 elements, which are the Sukshma Bhutas, Panchabhutas. When Sukshma Panchabhutas are formed, from the Sukshma Panchabhutas, the Sukshma Prapancha or the subtle universe is born. The subtle Jagat is born. That is what is told in the first line. Jayate pranaha manaha sarvendriyani cha. How these subtle elements combine within themselves to form the Sukshma Prapancha, also we know how mind is formed. From all the sattvic amshas of all the 5 elements, the mind is formed. From the Rajasika amshas, total of all the 5 elements, prana is born. So, what is manaha and prana and indriyani? From each of the sattvic aspects of 5 elements, the jnanendriyas are born. From the Rajasic aspects of all the 5 elements individually, the Karmendriyas are born. So when here he says, Pranaha, Manaha, Sarvendriyani, it means Prana, Manaha means Antakarana and all the Indriyas. What are the Indriyas? The Jnanendriyas and the Karmendriyas. Therefore, the entire Sukshma Prapancha is born. Sukshma Prapancha and Sukshma Sharira. So, what are the parts of Sukshma Sharira? 19 parts, Tattvabodha portion, 19 parts. What are they? 5 Jnanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas, 5 Pranas, 5-fold Pranas, 15. Manaha, Buddhihi, Ahankaraha, Chittaha, 4. So, totally 19 parted Sukshma Sharira or Sukshma Prapancha is born. So from Karana Prapancha, Maya or Prithvi, the Sukshma Prapancha is first projected onto this universe. Now, the individual, these 5 subtle elements form the individual Sukshma Sharira, whereas the same 5 samashtitaya or in the total form the Sukshma Prapancha. And what is the name given for this Sukshma Prapancha? You must remember Hiranya Garbha. We have already seen, isn't it? What are they? Hiranya Garbha is the Samashti Sukshma Sharira. That is The total Sukshma Sharira is called as Hiranyagarbha. At the level of the Jiva and individual, these 5 Sukshma elements together join in a certain way and create or project the entire Sukshma Sharira. What are Sukshma Sharira? 19 parted subtle body. Similarly, 19 parted Sukshma Prapancha is also there. Everything is in the total Vyashti and Samashti form. So, Yetasmat Jayate Pranaha Manaha Sarvendriyani cha Kham Vayur Jyotirapaha Prithivi Vishwasya Dharini. Though the Sukshma, Sharira or Sukshma Prapancha is projected first, he's giving in the first line, and in the second line, he gives the causes for that Sukshma Prapancha in the form of the Sukshma Panchabhutas, that is the Akasha, Vayuhu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi. I'm not going into the details of this because it's already been talked about in our Vivek Chudamani, and also we can refer back to Tattvabodha where all the details are given here. So the Sukshma Prapancha creation, the Sukshma Sharira creation is explained in this. From where has it come? From the Karana Prapancha. So Karana Prapancha or Prakriti, from that a Sukshma Prapancha is projected, which is called as Hiranyagarbha Samashti Sukshma Prapancha. So here in this verse, the creation has started from the Karana Prapancha or the cause, which is nothing but Ishvara. From here, a subtle universe, a subtle body, a subtle universe has been projected. So the subtle world has begun. Do you remember that in Kathopanishad we talked about a seed which, when it is just about to spurt in the presence of water, that enlarged state and that expanding of the seed is called as the readiness of this Karana Prapancha to manifest into the Sukshma Prapancha. You remember that in Kathopanishad we have done it. And the Sukshma Prapancha is that tender kind of that small sapling which comes up. And that grows further to form that plant or tree or whatever it is. So now the first step is from the Karana Prapancha, the Sukshma Prapancha and the Sukshma Sharira is projected. So the first step in the creation of this one. Then what happens here? The third one, mantra. In the fourth mantra, directly the Upanishad goes to the Sthula Prapancha. From this Sukshma Prapancha, the Sthula Prapancha gets manifested. So from Hiranyagarbha, Virat is Virat or Vishwa or Virat is called as the Samashti Sthula Prapancha. So now he goes to the final step of the second step of from Karana Sharira, Sukshma Sharira has come, Sukshma Prapancha has come, and from Sukshma Prapancha, the Sthula Prapancha by the name of Virat manifests. What is the meaning of Sthula Prapancha? That which is gross universe, that which is visible for us to objectify. Sukshma Prapancha is not objectifiable. My Sukshma Sharira is not objectifiable. The Sukshma Prapancha is not objectifiable. But Sthula Sharira is objectifiable. Sthula Prapancha is objectifiable. Therefore, now he continues to say that from this Brahman itself, endowed with the Maya Upadhi or the Maya Shakti, from which the Hiranyagarbha was born or appeared, which is nothing but Samashti Sukshma Sharira. From this Samashti Sukshma Sharira Hiranyagarbha, the gross universe appears, the physical universe, the gross universe appears. This gross universe, which can be a projection of the Vyashti body itself, is called as Virat. Virat means what? Vividham Rajate. that which manifests in many ways. That is what is called as the Sthula Prapancha. And how is the Virat described? In a poetic way. In the fourth mantra, this Virat is described in a very, very poetic way. Supposing you project yourself millions of times to occupy the whole universe. Say, imagine, as a poet, that is how a poet imagines. If you imagine one body, one human body, my body, I'm, you know, magnifying it millions of times and projecting onto this entire universe. How will I look? That is the look of this Virat. That is the look of the Samashti Sthula Prapancha. The Samashti Sthula Prapancha or Virat, the Upanishad describes in a human shape. Why human shape? Because we are used to thinking about ourselves in this particular shape. Sukshma Prapancha cannot be described in any shape because it is not available for objectification. Similarly, Sukshma Sharira we cannot objectify. We cannot objectify our prana. Maybe we can feel our prana, that's it. But otherwise, we cannot objectify the mind or anything. We objectify means what? We cannot see it or touch it. It is subtle, but we know it is there. I know my mind is there, my prana is there, it is moving. I have indriyas, all that I know, but I cannot see it grossly or touch it. That is why it is called as Sukshma Sharira Sukshma Prapancha. Now the Sthula Prapancha or Virat Purusha or the cosmic person is described here. Why it is described as a person? Because I am used to looking at myself as a particular shape and form. So the Upanishad also describes this Samashti Sthula Prapancha in the form of a human shape, and the Upanishad calls it a cosmic person. And what are we? We are not different from the cosmic person. We are also the cosmic person with smaller upadhi. Whereas the Sthula Prapancha is the same consciousness, Brahman, with a big upadhi called as the whole universe. So let us see how poetically it is going to express about this Virat Purusha or cosmic person. So what does he say now here? The Guru says, Agni Murdha Chakshushi Chandra Suryo Disha Shrotre Vagvivritascha Vedaha Vayuhu Prano Hridayam Vishwamasya Padbhyam Prithvi Yesha Sarva Bhutantaratma. So he is describing the Samashti Sthula Prapancha or the Virat in the form of a human shape as a cosmic person. So what does he say? Agni Murdha. Murdha means the head. The head of the cosmic person is in the higher worlds. Agni here means the higher worlds, the brighter worlds. Swargadi, Swargaloka, Bhuvarloka, Maharloka, Janarloka, all these seven worlds above this earth. Supposing we want to look up to the higher worlds, what is that? How do? We do like this, isn't it? Not that the higher worlds are higher in vertical altitude or something. It's not like that. When we say higher, that means when I have want to look at a large form, I have to look up to a large form. So this cosmic person or Virat Purusha is described as a human form, a large human form, encompassing the entire universe. And he says, for this Virat Purusha or for this cosmic person, Agni Murdhaha, the brighter, higher lokas are his head. Chakshushi Chandra Surya, for this cosmic person, the eyes are Chandra and Surya. Surya and Chandra being the luminaries which represent light, and therefore it is said for this cosmic Purusha, for this cosmic person, Virat Purusha, the eyes are as though, this is a pictorial representation, mind you. It is the way the Upanishads describe this pictorially. It does not mean that there is a Purusha with this. It's not like that. We have to understand that for the cosmic form, the luminaries of Surya and Chandra are like the eyes of the cosmic form. Then Dishaha Shrotre, all the 8 directions are the dishas, or the directions are the ears of this Virat Purusha. Why ears? Because the attribute of Akasha or Disha or space is what? Sound. You know that, isn't it? Akasha's attribute is sound, and I told you Vayu's attribute, I went on enumerating just some time back. So, sound being the Lakshana or attribute of Akasha, therefore, all the space around which is there here becomes the very ears of the cosmic person. So, Dishaha Shrotre, Vag Vivritascha Vedaha. Well explained Vedas become the very speech of this cosmic Purusha. They become the very speech of this Vak of this cosmic Purusha. Vayuhu Pranaha. This Vayu that is flowing in this space is the very Prana. It is the samashti prana, vayu, which we are prana apana, that we are inhaling, exhaling, and all our other pranas, digestive prana, circulatory prana, excretory prana, the panchavidha pranas that we are experiencing is where from? It is nothing but the samashti prana. And what is it? Vayu. What is prana? Vayu vikaraha. Prana is a vayu vikaraha. Therefore, vayuhu eva pranaha yasya. Vayu is the very prana of the entire cosmic Purusha. Then, hridayam vishwam asya. Hridayam means what? The mind, the intellect, which is in the Hridayam, with the Hridaya Guha, the Antakaranam that is there. We have seen that in Kathopanishad. Where is the Buddhi situated? Hridaya Guha. In this Hridaya Guha, or in this heart, Hridayam, what is there? The mind or the Antakaranam is available. And it is through this mind, this Buddhi, this Antakaranam, that you are able to perceive this entire universe. Otherwise, how will we perceive? Mind should be there to perceive and understand this universe. Therefore, Vishwam Asya Hridayam. This entire names and forms universe which is around is nothing but the very Antakaranam of this Virat Purusha. It is the very knowledge Swarupam, knowledge of Virat Purusha. Therefore, this whole world in us also, in an individual also, manifests in the form of knowledge, in the form of knowing, in the form of experiencing this world in my antakarana. Therefore, hridayam vishwamasya. Padbhyam prithivi. And how are we standing? When we are standing with our feet on the ground, on the Prithivi. Similarly, the Prithivi itself is the very feet of this Virat Purusha. The very feet of this Virat Purusha. Then, of course, there are other discussions and other descriptions of this where other things are also described. What is the stomach of this Virat Purusha? What is the this one of what where the bladder of Virat Purusha? All those things are in different ways, in different Upanishads, in different texts, different pictorial, symbolic representations of Virat Purusha are given. But here in this Upanishad, the Virat or the Samashti Sthula Prapancha or the cosmic person is described in the shape of what I am used to seeing, my own body. And a head is described, eyes are described, mind is described, the shrotre, that is, the ears are described. Okay, and then the feet are described. Hridayam is described. So he says that Padbhyam Prithivi Hyesha, for this Sarva Bhutantaratma. And what is this? It is the Sarva Bhutantaratma. This Virat Purusha is the self of all beings. Yeshaha, this Virat Purusha, that is Samashti Sthula Prapancha or cosmic person, is nothing but Sarva Bhuta Antaratma. This Virat itself is manifesting as different names and forms in the form of different upadhis. So this Virat is nothing but Sarva Bhutantaratma. It is that same Brahman, it is that same consciousness which is the Antaratma of the Sukshma Prapancha, is also the Antaratma of the Virat Purusha, and it is that consciousness which is here also as the Antaratma of every individual jiva. So Hyeshaha, this Virat Purusha, who is the Sarva Bhuta Antaratma, from this Brahman itself, this Virat Atma, Virat Prapancha or the Sthula Prapancha appeared. And what are the parts of this Virat Purusha? The Sthula Prapancha has been explained. So far, what was explained? The first verse talked about the relationship between the Jiva and Brahman as not different from each other or parts of each other, but one and the same. Then in the second verse, it talked about Brahman being the Vivarta Karanam of the Jivas and Jagat. How this Jagat has appeared in a particular order, how the first appeared once were the Sukshma Bhutas and the Sukshma Prapancha, that was explained. And in the fourth verse, from Sukshma Prapancha, how the Sthula Prapancha or Virat Purusha appeared. And who's that Virat Purusha? Sarva Bhutantaratma. Virat Purusha is also Ishvara, Sarva Bhutantaratma. It is the same Atma, same consciousness, same Brahman, which is Sarva Kshetreshu. Virat Kshetra also, it is the same consciousness. In this individual Vyashti Kshetram also, it is nothing but the same consciousness. Okay, now the jivas are born, the upadhis of the jivas are born. Then there is a prapancha now. Sukshma prapancha came, sthula prapancha came. Sukshma jiva, sukshma body came, sharira came, sthula sharira came. Now, what has to happen? The jiva, the traveling jiva, has to be born, isn't it? With a particular upadhi. Now the world is ready and the jivas are traveling. The jivas have to acquire physical bodies and take, you know, appear in different bodies, in different forms. So he tells here how the journey of the jiva takes place. Of course, this is a very big topic actually, which is called as Panchagni Vidya. It's called as the Panchagni Vidya, where for a traveling jiva, different stations are talked about. They are called as different areas where the jiva is processed before it comes back into the earth to take another form. But I will not go into the details of this. It is explained in all various other Upanishads also. But based on this Panchagni Vidya, the fifth verse talks about how the jiva, which has traveled after the fall of this body, which is the first station, where does it go? Then what happens? From there, which where it comes, then how does it come back to the earth? How does it come back to the Prithvi? That is what is talked about here. He says here, Tasmad Agnihi Samidho Yasya Suryaha Somat Parjanya Oshadhaya Prithivyam Puman Retah Sinchati Yoshitayam Bahvihi Prajaha Purushat Samprasutaha. How the various prajas, how the various jivas embodied themselves into the various bodies, into the new bodies. This jiva, I don't know what it was in the last life. In this life, it embodied itself into this body. But I do not know what it was in 10 lives before. But this jiva has been traveling for millions of lives and has taken millions of bodies. Need not be always human bodies, it could be anything. So here he says that the first station or the first place where the traveling jiva goes after the death of the physical body, it is said, the Upanishad says that it goes to the higher loka, which is called as Agnihi or Swargaloka or higher lokas. Samidho yasya suryaha, that which is sustained or lighted up by the sun. So, higher worlds, bright worlds. These are all poetic ways of explaining. So, if you really read just like that, we will not understand what it means. There is a deep meaning in that. Of course, there is a lot that can be explained in this verse, but in a very brief manner, I will explain that the jiva first finds itself in one of the higher worlds for whatever punya or whatever has been done. Of course, if it is a very bad karma and very bad karma phala, there are other ways. But then the higher worlds or swarga onwards or whatever it is, where light is basically is the representative of these higher worlds. Samidho yasya suryaha. Samidho yasya suryaha means that is where the sustenance is the bright worlds is from the light of the sun, bright light sun. Samidaha yasya surya. Then what happens? It is said that this jiva goes to the second station, which is what is called as the Chandra Lokaha. Okay, that is Soma Lokaha. We don't worry too much about this. These are all just various ways in which the jiva comes and embodies itself. So even if you don't understand this, don't worry too much about it. Somat Parjanyaha. What happens is from these higher worlds, especially Somat. Somat means what? From the moon. From the moon or the higher lokas from the moon, where the rains are created, this jiva is supposed to come back in the form of rain onto the Prithvi and get incorporated into the Oshadhaya, into the plants which are eaten by the various jivas. So first the higher worlds, then Parjanyaha, body in the Parjanyaha through water. Then there is a third step where it is the jiva is waiting to be born in a particular body in the Oshadhaya. That is the next step where the jiva is. Here the jiva does not feel anything. There are no experiences for this jiva at all. This jiva is supposed to be in the Oshadhis, in the plants, and these Oshadhis or the food, it is waiting in the form of food. The jiva is in the food form. It is waiting to be eaten by the male and the female of the species. Male and the female eat that food. It is eaten because this body is a body which is created out of annam. So the Oshadis is one stage of the jiva, and these Oshadis are eaten by the male and female. And the jiva is now in the form of the seed in the male and the egg in the female. So Puman Retaha Sinchati Yoshitaya. When the male and the female come together and the seed and the egg, which are nothing but the products of the food principle, here the jiva starts to manifest with the fertilization. The jiva starts to manifest itself in that particular form, whichever is the body, whichever is the parent who has eaten that. It may be a human parent, it may be an animal parent, it could be anything. Depending upon my prarabdha, my karma phalas, where I have to be born, It depends in which species I have to be born, what kind of a body I have to take, depends upon the parents who have eaten this particular food, and I, the Jiva, then manifest with a particular body in a particular form. So Bahvihi Prajaha Purushat Samprasutaha. Purushat means where? From that Brahman only all these bodies are also manifested. That is how all the jivas get embodied into this body. How the jivas came into this body. That is what is it. Agnihi Samido Yasya Suryaha Somat Parjanya Oshadaya Prithivyam. So the jiva has traveled, and through the rain it has come to the earth, and it has got incorporated into the oshadis, into the food, and the food that is eaten by the the species, the male and the female of the species, when they consume the food, that union of the male and female is what is the seed and the egg, which is going to really give the body required for this jiva to manifest. This is called as the Panchagni Vidya, because on this Vidya, actually, on this particular thing, Upasana is also done. Panchagni Vidya is one where Upasana is done on these things. But now here it is only for our information. Therefore, it is not even calling it Vidya here. Here, the Upanishad is not giving this verse as an Upasana mantra. It is only telling us what all stations the jiva passes through and how it comes back to the Prithvi. And then, when it is consumed in the form of food, which is there potentially in the food, jiva is there potentially in the form of food. And when this food is consumed by the male and female and a new body is brought about, it is that jiva which manifests into this particular form, a particular body, depending upon my prarabdha. Where I have to be born, whether I have to be born as an animal, whether I have to be born as a plant, whether I have to be born as a bird or human being or whatever. However, I have to be born in whichever form, in this particular thing, all the jivas are supposed to take this kind of a journey. So, this much, if we remember, that is enough. That we travel through a certain path and then ultimately come back to the earth as food principle. That is why our body is called as Annamaya. The Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira, Jiva is already there, but it cannot manifest itself, express itself without a Sthula Sharira. And how does it manifest? How does it become? How the Sukshma Sharira, Sthula Sharira is formed for a particular Jiva to manifest? This is how the Jiva goes through and takes its birth, so called birth. Birth is what? So called appears in a particular name and form, body form, in a particular name, in a particular human form, or a bird form, or a reptile form, or whatever form it appears. Here, the Upanishad is talking about the human jivas. All the jivas have the same, but here we are talking to human beings, so we are not bothered about other beings for the time being, but it is how a human jiva takes this particular cycle called Panchagni stations, and then comes and manifests itself into another human form. But where this human form is born, what kind of a body is born, how it looks, what are the afflictions it has, all this depends upon my prarabdha, and also desha, kala, vartamana, and my prarabdha. This whole thing depends upon. And from the 6th verse to the 10th verse, 9th verse also, a few more things in the creation are talked about. Ultimately, everything that is here comes from that Brahman. That is what he wants to say here in a very poetic and in a very cryptic way. We'll stop with this. Nandantu sadhaka sarve vinashyantu vidushakaha avastha shambhavi mestu rasannostu gurus sada सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ तत्सत्